In the flickering cathode ray glow of the Internet's endless culture war, Stephen Bonnell, better known as Destiny, the debate bro gladiator of Twitch, delivers a sermon.
Who is getting their career destroyed for not agreeing with the majority opinion in the Dems? This happens in the Republican Party only for the moment. I feel like the problem is the Democratic governing majority has to follow a culture that they don't control. They have to follow kind of like the progressive culture. But so the elected body of lawmakers is chasing a culture that isn't necessarily congruent with the lawmaking body. It doesn't care about the lawmaking body. Whereas for the Republicans, it is the lawmakers, Donald Trump or MAGA, that are setting the culture. So the culture is keeping with the lawmakers. I think that dynamic, I've spoken about this every time here, that dynamic is just so much better for maintaining political power. Because on the MAGA side, because the lawmakers and the governing are setting the culture and the culture is trying to chase the lawmakers, you end up in this world where all of the culture is doing their best to appease the party. Whereas on the Democrat side, the Democrats have this impossible game where they're trying to both appease their party, the governing part, but they're also chasing a culture that is that is intrinsically alienating to the majority of the party, right? So that's why you get into these weird scenarios where a really easy comparison is BLM to J6. Like BLM, for all of its problems, had a more noble goal on paper than January 6th did. But BLM was an event that caused so many people to lose elections, to lose popular support. It had to be disavowed by Biden and Kamala. And look at what happened with look at what happened with Kamala. Tweeted out one time, she retweeted a link to a bail fund for Minnesota, just a bail fund, just for bail, not even to like fund people's like legal teams or to try to bust people out or ship them, just a bail fund. And she was excoriated that. Even to this day, you'll find people who bring that argument up. Meanwhile, Trump pardons every single J6 offender, and it's perfectly fine, right? There's just them, Trump getting to set the culture and having people follow him is so much more effective for unifying the political power with the cultural power. Whereas on the left, the cultural power doesn't care about political power. If anything, they prefer not to be in power because it lets them endlessly critique power and complain and do nothing. And because of who they are, demographically, a lot of them are insulated from power. It doesn't really matter one way or another. People like, the Majority Report or, Hassan or, any of these people aren't affected at the end of the day by what the policy is. So it doesn't really matter to them. It doesn't affect them on a personal level.
A delegation of congressional Republicans that persuaded Nixon to resign.
Senator Scott and I have just concluded a visit with the president. He invited us down this afternoon to disclose.
Sorry, just real quick. I'm just rereading the question. Who's getting their career destroyed for not agreeing with the majority opinion in the Dems? Like even Bernie Sanders is getting like shouted down at place. I remember even in 2020, I think when he was giving stump speeches for Biden, I think was it 2020? Black woman takes over mic, Bernie Sanders. And even Bernie is like so cucked. He can't say anything. Was it this? Does anybody remember when this happened? Was it 9 years ago? Oh, so he was still even running for president, I think, right? He wasn't out of the nomination thing yet?
With your presence.
This is as far as Vermont Senator Bernie.
This feels less like a live stream rant and more like a Paul Thomas Anderson epic, sprawling, chaotic, and haunted by the ghosts of American dysfunction. Picture it, Destiny, with his rapid-fire cadence and a smirk that could cut glass, dissecting the Democratic Party's fatal flaw, not Donald Trump, not MAGA, but its own subservience to a progressive culture it can't control. It's a takedown that's equal parts polemic and stand-up routine, a liberal's nightmare dressed up as a TED Talk. This isn't just a critique. It's a cinematic autopsy of a party caught in the quicksand of its own ideals. A freewheeling tragicomedy where the heroes are their own worst enemies and the villain is a mirror. Let's set the stage. Destiny, the self-styled centrist provocateur, is a digital Cicero, wielding logic like a broadsword in the Colosseum of online discourse. His target, the Democrats, a party he sees as shackled to a progressive culture that's as alienating as it is uncompromising. Unlike the Republicans, who march in lockstep with a MAGA culture shaped by Trump's iron fist, the Democrats are chasing a zeitgeist they didn't create, a woke whirlwind that demands purity but delivers electoral ruin. Destiny's argument is brutal in its simplicity. The right sets the culture, while the left is set by it, and that dynamic is why the GOP wields power like a sledgehammer while the Democrats fumble with a paperweight. It's a thesis that stings, not because it's entirely wrong, but because it exposes the liberal soul's deepest fear. that its virtues, empathy, justice, inclusion, are also its Achilles heel. From a liberal perspective, this is a gut punch, a betrayal wrapped in a PowerPoint. Destiny's framing casts progressivism as a runaway train, derailing the Democratic Party with every hashtag and protest. He points to moments like the Black Lives Matter movement, noble in intent but politically toxic, as evidence of a culture that prioritizes moral absolutism over pragmatic power. The liberal heart recoils at this because it knows the fight for justice isn't a game of optics, it's a moral imperative, a reckoning with centuries of violence and inequity. Yet Destiny's sermon forces a confrontation with an uncomfortable truth. The left's commitment to principle can curdle into self-sabotage, alienating the very voters it needs to win. It's a paradox that feels like a plot twist in a Coen brothers farce. Noble intentions leading to electoral doom, with the audience laughing and crying in equal measure. But let's not get too somber. This is Destiny, after all, and his delivery is pure internet theater, a caffeinated blend of snark, statistics, and shade. His jabs at the left's cultural gatekeepers, from Twitch streamers to progressive pundits, are viciously funny, painting them as insulated elites who critique power without ever wielding it. The comparison between BLM and January 6 is a masterstroke of provocation, not because it's fair, it's not, but because it's designed to inflame, to force the listener to grapple with the optics of activism versus insurrection. Destiny's glee is infectious, a reminder that the Internet's great gift is its ability to turn even the most earnest debates into a roast. He's not just critiquing the Democrats. He's performing, a digital jester poking at the king's court while the kingdom burns. Cinematically, this rant plays like a mashup of network and idiocracy. Destiny is the mad prophet, railing against a system that's lost its way, while the Democrats are the tragic heroes, undone by their own hubris. The progressive culture he decries is the MacGuffin, a shiny object that drives the plot but reveals more about the characters than the goal itself. Trump and MAGA are the antagonists, not because they're evil, though the liberal lens might argue they are, but because they're effective, shaping a culture that bends to their will. And the audience, with the voyeurs scrolling through X, chuckling at Destiny's barbs while grappling with the sinking feeling that he might be right. It's a film that's equal parts satire and sermon, a comedy that leaves you questioning whether to laugh or despair. From a liberal vantage point, Destiny's critique is both a challenge and a betrayal. On one hand, it's a call to action, a plea for the Democrats to wrest control of their narrative, to prioritize power over purity. On the other, it's a dismissal of the very ideals that define the left: justice, equity, the fight for the marginalized. The liberal soul aches at this because it knows that movements like BLM aren't just optics. They're a cry for survival in a world that's been rigged against the powerless. Destiny's comparison to January 6, with its glib equivalence of a justice movement to a coup attempt, is a knife to the heart, a reminder that even the sharpest minds can miss the forest for the trees. Yet his broader point lingers. The left's inability to translate moral victories into political ones is a flaw that threatens its survival. Still, let's not pretend Destiny is here to deliver a eulogy. His rant is a performance, a high-wire act of bravado and provocation. His jabs at figures like Bernie Sanders, once a progressive icon now shouted down by the very culture he helped inspire, are equal parts hilarious and heartbreaking. The image of Sanders, the grizzled socialist, ceding the mic to activists half his age, is a perfect encapsulation of Destiny's thesis. The left eats its own, while the right rallies behind its king. It's a punchline that lands because it's true, and Destiny's delivery, half laughing, half exasperated, makes it impossible to look away. He's not just roasting the Democrats, he's holding up a mirror, forcing them to confront their reflection. Cinematically, this feels like the second act of a sprawling political thriller, where the heroes realize the enemy isn't just external, it's within. Destiny is the narrator, leaning into the camera like a conspiracy theorist with a whiteboard, while the Democrats are the flawed protagonists, scrambling to save a sinking ship. The progressive culture is the storm, unpredictable and unforgiving, while Trump and MAGA are the rival crew, sailing smoothly on a sea of unified purpose. The audience is left to grapple with the stakes. Will the heroes adapt, or will they drown in their own ideals? It's a question that hangs over every frame, a tension that makes Destiny's rant both infuriating and impossible to ignore. As Destiny's sermon fades into the digital ether, what lingers is the image of that uncontrollable culture, a progressive wildfire that burns brighter than any ballot box. It's a haunting metaphor, not just for the Democrats' woes, but for the broader challenge of wielding power in a fractured world. Destiny's rant, for all its provocations, is a requiem for the dream of unity, a reminder that even the most noble ideals can become liabilities in the arena of politics. The liberal soul aches at this, because it knows the fight for justice is never clean, never easy, never without cost. But there's also something liberating in Destiny's audacity, in his refusal to coddle the left's sacred cows. His rant is a middle finger to the gatekeepers, a declaration that power requires sacrifice, even if it means sidelining the ideals that define us. It's a reminder that in the theater of politics, pragmatism is a weapon, and the left's reluctance to wield it is a self-inflicted wound. Destiny's laughter, his gleeful dissection of the Democrats' failures, is a kind of rebellion, a refusal to let ideology blind him to reality. This is the denouement, the moment where the dust settles and the audience is left to make sense of the wreckage. Destiny is the victor, but the victory is Pyrrhic, tainted by the knowledge that the game is rigged for everyone. The Democrats are the fallen heroes, their flaws laid bare, their mission unfinished. And the audience, we're left laughing, mourning, and marveling at the spectacle, because that's what politics does. It breaks your heart and makes you meme in the same breath. In the end, Destiny's rant is a mirror, a myth, a middle finger. It's a comedy that's also a tragedy, a satire that's also a sermon. It's a reminder that in the theater of American politics, the cultures we chase are never just ideas. They're the stories we tell, the battles we fight, the truths we dare to speak. And as long as there's a stream and a screen, there'll be a destiny to provoke, a Democrat to stumble, and a world to laugh and cry along with them.